My name is Leah. The dining room was unchanged, as if time had stood still. The same heavy chairs, the usual polished oak table, and that soft jazz that enveloped the room, just like every holiday since I was 12. My mom had prepared her special roasted pumpkin dish. My dad, with a surgeon's precision, carved the turkey as if he were still operating. For a moment, I almost convinced myself that everything was fine. Then, as he passed me the mashed potatoes, my dad looked up and smiled. "Is 2,000 a month enough?" My fork slipped from my hand. I blinked, confused. "What do you mean? What are you talking about, Dad?" A heavy silence filled the air. Even the jazz seemed to vanish. My dad's smile faltered. He looked at my mom, who avoided eye contact. I don't understand," I mumbled, my voice barely a whisper. "I haven't received anything, Victoria." My dad's voice was sharp, but not yet angry. "Not yet," she said, dabbing her lips with a napkin before setting it down. I thought it would be better used elsewhere." "Better used?" he repeated, his voice louder now. "You told me you'd handle the transfers." "I did," she replied simply. "To whom?" His voice cracked, because it wasn't to Leah. My mom tried to reach for a glass of water, but her hand trembled slightly. "Lena's program is more expensive. She needs it more. You know how hard it is to get into the fashion world. It's competitive, ruthless. And Leah, is she supposed to survive on scraps while our other daughter gallivants around?" "Bruce." He interrupted her. "No, I need to know for how long." She sighed. "Since August." He turned to me. "Leah, you haven't received anything. No transfers, no support." I shook my head. "I asked once. Mom said there was nothing left after my tuition." His shoulders slumped. "I thought you were doing well." "I've been working nights," I said, tutoring, bartending, skipping meals. "But yes, I'm fine." My mom's chair scraped as she stood up. "Don't do this here. It's Thanksgiving." My dad didn't move. He just looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time in a very long time. "I need some air," I said, standing up. The hallway felt too quiet, too familiar. I stepped outside, pulling my jacket tighter and trying to breathe. The fall semester blurred into long nights and even longer days. I packed my schedule until there wasn't a single blank square left on my calendar. Anatomy lab in the morning, tutoring in the afternoon, and bar shifts that stretched into the early hours. I told myself it was temporary, just until I got back on my feet, just until rent was paid, just until I could breathe again. Most days, I skipped breakfast. Lunch was whatever I could grab between buildings, usually a protein bar and black coffee. Dinner was instant ramen or stale pastries from the campus-adjacent coffee shop, which threw out unsold items at closing. My shoes started to peel at the soles. I stapled them together one Friday night during my bar shift. My body finally stopped pretending. I remember the moment clearly, a tray of drinks in hand, music pulsing, someone waving to be served, then warmth, and then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, it was sterile white above me, the slow beep of monitors, and an 4 in my arm. The ER nurse asked if I had anyone to call. I said no. Later, my manager told me he'd called my parents after the ambulance arrived. "No answer," he said. "I left messages. Figured they'd show up. They didn't." 2 days later, Kevin, my lab partner, showed up uninvited. He'd heard, brought a plastic shopping bag and a casserole dish. I hadn't given him my address, but he found me anyway. "You look like you're disappearing," he said, setting the food on the counter. I sat on the edge of my bed, legs bent, hoodie pulled tight. "I'm fine," I said. He didn't argue, just handed me a plate and sat across from me in silence. I took a bite. It was warm and real, and I had to stop myself from crying over a forkful of pasta. That night, I slept 12 hours straight. The next morning, I checked my phone. 2 messages from my mom. The first, glad you're okay. Can you text Lena the name of that skincare brand you liked? The second, don't forget to eat. I deleted both. Later that week, I saw Lena post a video of a West Hollywood brunch. Her face illuminated by filtered sunlight, with the caption, "No better way to start the day, thanks, Mom." I stared at the screen for a long time before opening my banking app. My phone screen had a thin crack in the bottom corner, splitting faces and text just enough to distort the illusion. Still, I scrolled, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop. Lena had just posted a carousel of a rooftop lounge in West Hollywood. There were velvet chairs, gold-rimmed cocktails, the kind of sunshine that made everything look expensive. She was in a cream silk dress, tagged as Dior, her hair pulled back in a way that probably cost more than all my groceries for the week. The caption read, "Mom always knows exactly what I need. Brunch life. Style. Gifted." I locked my phone, placed it face down on the floor, and leaned back against the mattress. The ceiling above my bed was peeling, the mini fridge hummed loudly in the corner. I hadn't bought fresh vegetables in 3 weeks. A month ago, I'd emailed my mom asking if she could help cover the cost of a new anatomy atlas. Mine was falling apart, with missing, water-stained pages from a spilled glass during a late-night study session. She'd replied the next day, "That's a luxury, Leah. You'll have to make do." That same week, Lena posted about her new Balenciaga boots, "Thanks to my amazing mom for always supporting the dream." I could still hear her voice, sweet and effortless. I wasn't angry, not exactly, just empty, as if the part of me that once thought to explain the imbalance had finally gone. Still, I wasn't asking to be pampered. I just wanted to stop rationing even medicine. I picked up my phone again. Lena's last story was a short clip, her laughing, hair blowing in the wind as she leaned over a balcony with the city spread out below her like a stage. There was jazz playing softly in the background. I watched it 3 times before muting the sound and opening my camera. The lighting in my dorm room was too dim for anything to look good. Still, I took a picture. Cracked nails, calloused fingers, the same hoodie I'd worn for 4 days. No caption. I didn't post it. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled until I found her name. I hadn't called Lena in months. Most of our exchanges were one-line texts, always initiated by me. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering before pressing the call button. Lena answered on the second ring. Her voice was light, carefree, exactly as I remembered. "Leah. Wow, you never call. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, I lied. Just wanted to see how you were doing. It's been a while." She laughed. "You missed me." Of course, my voice came out thinner than I intended. She launched into a story about a recent fashion shoot in Pasadena, the stylist she didn't like, the lack of almond milk at her favorite coffee shop. I let her go on, feigning listening as I counted the unopened bills on my desk. Eventually, I asked, "How do you manage everything financially? LA's not cheap." "Oh," she said with a shrug I could hear over the phone, "Mom takes care of it. She transfers me $3,500 every month, sometimes more if I have shoots or networking events." My mouth went dry. "That's great." "Yeah," she said, oblivious. "She just gets it, you know. She always says it's about investing in the dream." "Anyway, how are classes?" I barely heard the rest of the conversation. I nodded and said, and that sounds cool, in all the right places." My face was hot, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. When we hung up, I stared at my reflection in the window. I looked pale, smaller, as if something had been scooped out. I opened a new tab and searched for flights. The cheapest fare had 2 layovers and a 6-hour delay, but it would get me to Chicago in time for Thanksgiving dinner. I clicked Book Now, then closed my laptop, pushed the stack of bills aside, and started packing. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say when I got there, but I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. And I knew the table I'd be sitting at would never be the same. We sat at the kitchen table, sunlight streaming in through the same windows where I used to proudly display my spelling tests. The meal was silent, almost careful. Mom had made lentil soup and chicken salad, nothing fancy, but more than I'd eaten in weeks. I forced down 2 bites before putting my fork down. My dad looked at me. "You've lost weight." I shrugged. "I guess so." "Are you okay?" "Define okay," I said. He frowned. "What do you usually eat?" "Instant ramen, discounted sandwiches, leftovers from work, if I'm lucky." He paused. "The 2K isn't covering enough." I looked at him. He wasn't being sarcastic. He genuinely didn't know. "There haven't been any transfers, Dad." "None." His fork clattered against his plate. He turned to my mom. "Victoria." She kept her eyes fixed on her bowl. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. "I've been sending it to Lena," she said finally, her voice even. "She needs it more." My dad's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "She's in fashion, Bruce," my mom continued. "It's expensive. She has events, people to meet. She has to maintain a certain image." I blinked. "And I don't need to eat." Mom looked at me as if startled to hear my voice. "I'm not saying you don't need help," she said carefully. "I just thought, you're stronger. You've always managed. Lena's more sensitive." My dad stood up slowly. "You told me you were sending Leah money every month. You made me believe she was okay." My mom, her voice louder now, said, "She always is." My dad looked at me again, this time with something that felt heavier than shock. It felt like guilt. I pushed my chair back. "I came here for answers. I didn't expect them to be so simple." My mom turned to me, but I was already in the hallway, her voice fading behind me as I reached my room and closed the door. My dad knocked on the door that night. I didn't answer, but he opened the door anyway, slowly, as if unsure if he had the right to be there. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "I just keep replaying everything." I sat up, waiting. "She told me she was sending it every month." "I thought you were fine. I thought you were comfortable." I said nothing. He sat on the edge of my bed. "Do you remember when Lena got her car?" I nodded. "I was supposed to get mine maybe next year." He exhaled through his nose, as if the memory hurt more now. "I said we could only afford one vehicle at the time. She told me you didn't care." "I cared," I said simply. He nodded slowly. "I keep thinking about it. This summer, you wanted to go to that medical camp. She said you changed your mind, that you wanted to stay home and save money. I cried for a week when she said we couldn't afford it. Lena went to Italy that summer." He looked away. I should have asked more questions. She made it easy for me not to. He was silent for a long time. "So, she always said you were independent, that you didn't need as much, that you'd figure it out." "She wasn't wrong," I said. "I did figure it out. I just shouldn't have had to." His jaw clenched. "It's not about strength, Leah. It's about fairness." And I missed that for too long. I could hear them arguing again downstairs. My mom's voice rose, sharp, something about loyalty. His response, lower, angrier, cut through the walls. I closed my eyes. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. The next morning, I found my dad in his office, glasses low on his nose, poring over bank statements. He didn't hear me approach. "Leah," he said when he noticed me. "I need you to know I didn't just believe your mother. You gave her access to what?" "The fund," he said. "The one set up for you and Lena, split equally. I thought it would be locked until you turned 25, but apparently she's been siphoning funds into a separate account solely in Lena's name." He rubbed his temples, his voice strained. 250,000 so far. I felt something shift inside me. Not shock, exactly, just confirmation. So now what? I've already called the lawyer. We're starting the process to reverse the transactions. It'll take time. I nodded. It was all I could do. Later that night, their voices rose again, this time harsher, more confused. "You didn't even ask me," my dad yelled. "That money was for both our daughters." "She needs it more," my mom retorted. "I did what was best for her. Not for us. Not for Leah." Hearing my name like that, loud, defended, not ignored, did something in me I had no words for. I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. "I trusted you," he said again, lower now. "And you stole from our own daughter." I turned away before I could hear her reply. I already knew what it would sound like. Lena called 2 days later. Her voice was strained, frayed at the edges. "Mom told me I'm only getting 1,000 a month now. Is that true?" "Yes," I said. "Dad's handling the finances now." She exhaled sharply. "I can't live on that. Rent, classes, supplies." "I know." There was silence, as if she were waiting for me to offer a solution. I didn't. "Do you really think this is fair?" she asked. "I think this was a long time coming." She hung up. That night, I caught my mom putting cash into an envelope. She didn't see me standing in the hallway, but I knew what it was for. Later, my dad knew too. He didn't raise his voice, just stood in front of her in the kitchen and said, "I can't do this anymore." She stared at him, unblinking. I was trying to protect her. He didn't waver. "And who was protecting Leah?" "Leah's fine," she said. "She always has been fine." He looked tired. "You keep saying that as if it justifies everything." "I just wanted what was best for Lena." He shook his head. "And what did Leah get?" My mom didn't answer. The next morning, he called a lawyer. By the end of the week, he had filed for legal separation. The house felt different, quieter, as if something had cracked open and let in air that had never been allowed before. My mom moved through the days as if underwater. She cooked, folded laundry, rearranged books that hadn't been touched in years, but she didn't talk to me, not really. I stayed for 2 more nights. The silence between the rooms stretched like something no one wanted to name. And when I packed my bag and zipped the last zipper, she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, as if she couldn't decide whether to say something or not. She didn't. Back in Philadelphia, the days felt different. I dropped 2 of my shifts, the bar let me keep weekends. I kept tutoring because I liked the quiet clarity of explaining things. The rest of the time I studied, slept, and ate food that didn't come from a package. My grades climbed rapidly, not because I suddenly got smarter, but because I could finally breathe. I bought a pair of new sneakers, not expensive, just unbroken. They felt like an improvement I had to earn twice, once in work, once in worth. Lena texted more. At first, it was out of habit, then it morphed into something else. She'd send photos of outfits she'd styled for clients at the boutique. "They're not designer, but I like them more," she wrote once. "They actually feel like me." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "I'm glad." One night, she called out of the blue. Her voice was lower than usual. "I think I can finally see it now." "See what?" "What it cost you." "All of it." There was a pause long enough to feel honest. "I didn't want to believe it," she said, "because if I believed it, I'd have to admit that Mom made things easy for me, and that meant she made things hard for you." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. "I don't need you to feel guilty," I said. "Just don't pretend it was fair." "I won't." That was all we said for a while. I heard the clinking of glass on her end, probably tea, not wine. Lena never liked alcohol, she hated the taste. I always thought that was funny. She cleared her throat. "Are you going home for the holidays?" "I'm not sure." "Dad is." "I am too." I hesitated. "Maybe we could go together," she added. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. It's been a year since that dinner. I'm still in Philadelphia, still in school, but everything feels more stable now. I sleep, I eat, I study without glancing at the clock like it's a threat. My professors have noticed the difference, and so have I. Lena is still in LA, but she's not the same girl who posted every brunch. She works part-time at a boutique that promotes sustainable fashion. She designs pieces from fabric scraps and talks more about craftsmanship than haute couture. The pride in her voice is quieter, but real. Mom works at a home goods store now. She says it's temporary, but I don't ask anymore. Our calls are brief, polite. There's a distance neither of us knows how to bridge. Dad, on the other hand, calls every week. Sometimes we talk about school, sometimes we don't. When he visits, he brings books and groceries and listens as if time is no longer a luxury he has to ration. One night, Lena called, just as I was leaving the library. "Thinking of going home for the holidays," she said. "To see Mom." I didn't say anything. "Do you want to come along?" she asked. Not for her, just to make it right this time. There was a long silence, but she didn't feel it. She just waited. I nodded before I even realized I was doing it. "Okay," I said. "Let's go." Christmas arrived without grand gestures, just an early morning flight, 2 carry-on bags, and a quiet knock on the door. Lena and Dad went in first. I followed them. Mom answered in a sweater I didn't recognize, plain, slightly worn. Her hair had more gray than last year. She smiled faintly, the smile not reaching her eyes. We sat around the same table where everything had fallen apart. The food was simple: roasted vegetables, a store-bought pie, dry turkey my dad had overcooked. No one brought up the past, but no one pretended it hadn't happened either. That, I think, was the victory. We passed the dishes. Lena complimented the stuffing. Dad asked about my classes. Mom said she was still getting used to retail hours. It was honest, not warm, but honest. Later that night, I unpacked in my childhood room. The walls felt smaller. I pulled a plain white envelope from my bag, my tuition receipt. I placed it in the drawer next to a folded note my dad had written a few months prior. It read, "This is yours, not because you earned it, but because I finally saw you." I read it once more before closing the drawer. For a long time, I thought love had to be proven, that silence meant strength, and that strength meant not needing anything. But I don't believe that anymore. I believe in being seen. And I believe some stories don't end with healing. They begin with it. Thank you for listening to Leah's story. If you enjoyed this video, Please like and share to support us in bringing more emotional stories, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new releases. See you in the next video.